And so thank you all for coming today. This is really, really important. And I'm here to really introduce John Lundgren, who is probably one of the most amazing human beings you will ever have the pleasure to share space and information and love with. His intellect is amazing. He's one of the most preeminent scientists in the country. And his heart is just as large as that brain that he has, you know, cranking out, you know, theories and research and all of that good stuff. John is an entomologist and had a fantastic career with the USDA and focused a lot on our beautiful pollinators. And so his career, he will tell you about his career and how it came to be something else at this point. But he really works with a lot of farmers all over not just in the Midwest, but really across the country and internationally as well. I talked to some of the farmers that work with John. He is a Pied Piper. That's all I'll say about that. And so who doesn't want to increase yield, right, for less cost and bring more money home to the family and not use chemicals? So this is not a talk about being pro or anti anything. This is really about back to the future in a way that's 21st century. And so we're really thrilled to have John in our space today. And thanks so much for making the trip. We're so grateful.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. So I've got sort of 3 general topics that we'll be addressing today. And they're all different. We're gonna start real low. I'm gonna depress everybody in the room. They're all gonna want to leave and all that sort of thing. And then we're gonna build things up and start focusing on solutions. Tonight's talk will be totally different than what you see today, and it's the best of the bunch. So stick around for tonight, okay? Where we are, we'll talk about what we're doing on our own farm, as well as some of the issues that Ann was talking about with our whistleblower case, and as well as some of the on-farm research that's showing just how farmers are leading this revolution right now in terms of regenerative agriculture. So my research tends to focus on 2 central areas. Number 1 is risk assessment of pesticides and genetically modified crops, and then also developing solutions, sustainable regenerative solutions. Can you guys all hear me okay? I tend to project. I'm sorry. You may have to move back. I tend to speak in the South Dakota wind, and so when it's blowing, there's only me and the wind. So, all right. So we're going to talk about pollinators. We'll start off talking about pollinators. Ecdysis. This is my house right now, as we speak. This is Blue Dasher Farm. That's our demonstration farm. Ecdysis Foundation is our 501c3. There it is. I was asked to give a talk for the keynote address to the North American Beekeepers Association down in Galveston. I think it was beginning of last year. And I got up on stage and I said, when did your bees start dying? And they said, 2007, 2006, 2008, right in there. I'm like, okay, how many dollars have you guys spent on solving this now? Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I said, how's your bees doing? And they're dying. We're losing I lost 100%. Nebraska, I heard 100% bee loss this year. 100%. Then they ship whatever survives out to California almonds, and they lose the majority of whatever survived, and then they bring them back. I mean, we're losing 50, 60, 70% of our beehives every year now. Imagine doing that on your own operation with your crops or your livestock, right? And I asked the beekeepers these questions, and they're like, well, you spent hundreds of millions of dollars and you still haven't fixed this? Because it's not a bee problem. This isn't a bee problem. This is much bigger than just the bees. Okay? Back in 1948, the Nobel Prize for Medicine was given to this happy gent. He just won. Look at how happy he is. Paul Mueller. Before 1948, let me give you some context here. Before 1948, the human race was at the whim of bugs. Insects were winning the game. They decided what crops we were growing. They decided where we would colonize in terms of around the world, right? They were limiting human population growth at a tremendous rate. And what happened is Paul Mueller discovered something. He discovered a chemical. This chemical was cheap to produce. It had very low acute mammalian toxicity. It didn't kill people very quickly. And it was blindingly effective at killing insects. This was a game changer moment in pest management. This was a paradigm shift. And we used it. Insects have killed more soldiers than bullets or bombs ever have through disease transmission. So we started coating our soldiers. And it gave us the upper hand on the world stage. Spraying it in our households to kill any creepy crawlies that might be walking around. We started using it in the environment. There was actually a World Health Organization sanctioned a campaign to eradicate mosquitoes from the face of the earth. So we sprayed wetlands all over the planet with DDT and similar compounds. It didn't work. In case you didn't know, we still have mosquitoes. At least last I checked. Out in South Dakota, I think you guys may be in better shape than we are on that front. Huge development. DDT and some of these early organochlorines and organophosphates were an incredible advance, right, in terms of pest management. And the best technology of the day said that they were safe. We did the best we could to assess whether or not these chemicals would have an adverse effect on the environment and on human health. And the best information that we had said, okay, give the guy the Nobel. But then we started finding that it wasn't staying put, that it was bioaccumulating. These chemistries were bioaccumulating in food webs in ways that we couldn't predict until we experienced it firsthand. We still find it in fish and in aquatic systems. What happened is that these chemistries would bioaccumulate, and then they would especially bioaccumulate into apex predators. When I was growing up, it was a rare event that we would see a raptor or a bird of prey out there. My kids luckily can see that now, but we're starting to see those populations are declining again. What happened is that these chemistries would weaken the eggshells of some of these raptors, and then they would crush their own offspring as they would roost on their nests. And so it almost eradicated the American eagle or the bald eagle from North America. So there was harmful environmental effects that we didn't predict. No flies on me thanks to DDT. All kinds of human health problems are now linked to some of these early chemistries. We're still finding DDT in human breast tissue. Birth defects, breast cancer, diabetes, brain damage, that's a short list. And just to add insult to injury, the pests that we were trying to kill with these things became resistant. Chewed them up and spit it back out at us. This isn't a bee problem. This is a biodiversity problem. This is the worst mass extinction event that planet Earth has ever experienced. What we are living through right now is the Holocene extinction event, and it's worse than the dinosaur die-off. We're losing entire habitats. Drain it, right? Farm fence post to fence post. Where'd the prairie go? We're down to about 1% of that. Entire insect communities are disappearing. A study just was published a few months ago that documented in Germany, that they documented the windshield test. How many bugs did you used to have to clean off of your windshield when you were growing up as a kid? And how many do you have to now? That's not very many anymore. What this study documented is that in Germany, over the last 27 years, we've lost 70% of all insect abundance in 27 years. What eats insects, right?
Bats.
Just about every other organism that's out there. Birds, bats, bees, butterflies, terrestrial mammals. We are losing species at a rapid and alarming rate right now. What's the problem? What's the problem?
Monocultures?
It's right there.
Soybeans?
Food product, well, farming. It's not that we are producing food, it is how we are producing food. Somewhere down the road, somebody came up with the idea that to be a good farmer, you had to farm bigger and less species. And we are paying for that mantra at a pretty bad clip right now. Agriculture is far too simplified, and this is related to all of those problems, many of the problems that we're facing as a planet right now. What does this mean? Simplified agriculture. Corn currently occupies 5% of the terrestrial land surface of our country, 30% of all crop ground. One plant. Soybeans, 4.5%. Wheat, 2.5%. Alfalfa, 3%. On 15% of our country, 4 plant species. That's simplified. All of these species, or many of them, are genetically modified to resist pests and to be tolerant of glyphosate. Almost all of this ground is treated with Roundup. At least it was. Now it's being treated with dicamba. All of it is maintained with chemical fertilizers. All of it is treated, just about all of it, is treated with neonicotinoid seed treatments and fungicidal seed treatments completely unnecessarily. That's simplified. Yellow is corn, green is soybeans. I live right here. When it says on the side of a jug, before you spray this, warn your beekeeper to move his hives, because you're going to smoke them. And the beekeeper who lives in this says, where the hell am I supposed to move? The decisions made on one farm are not made just on one farm, when it's a collective community that covers an entire state. This is not my front yard. This is a glacier. Although my front yard does look like this a lot of times during the year. Climate change. This is not a golf course. This is a wetland, right? Algal blooms. Pollution from agrochemicals. They're thinking about red listing the monarch butterfly as an endangered species. Degradation of rural communities, human health problems. All of these are now being scientifically linked to how we are producing our food. That does not make the farmers the bad guys. That makes the farmers the solution. Okay? Risk assessment is hard. I've been studying risk assessment of pesticides for 20 years. Ray, you could probably expand that to quite a few more years. I can tell you right now that after 20 years of working on this, you cannot predict the risk of pesticides on the environment. People think, I went down to Lowe's and I bought a jug, it's got to be safe. Somebody's watching. I can tell you right now, Nobody's watching.